Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, a car does a Dukes of Hazzard over a gap in the University Place Bridge, and that's not the craziest thing that happened in Seattle today. But before we get to any of that, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
Let's go over what we know about the suspect who allegedly assassinated Charlie Kirk. We know this was a guy who was a normal kid from a Republican family who got radicalized in the online gamer world and got radicalized in college. He was moving farther and farther to the left. That's not according to me. That's according to his own mother. He was in a relationship with a man who identified as a trans furry. The bullets were etched with gamer code, Antifa code, and trans stuff. You put all that together, it does not sound like a Proud Boy. You put all that together, it doesn't sound like anybody on the right. But the left is trying so hard to make it seem like this guy was on the right. All weekend long, they were lying about this. My haters on social media are like, he was a right-wing this, a right-wing that. How? Show me how. There's no way at all. What, just because his parents were Republicans and lost their kids to the college and gamer culture? That happens all the time. But the left is so desperate not to be responsible for this, they are monkeying with the data. They are flat out lying. Ted Cruz was on CNN last night with Caitlin Clark. Listen to this and try not to throw something at your radio.
And we don't have a motive yet. We don't know yet. We're waiting. Obviously, we've heard what the governor's had to say, what the FBI director said today.
Come on, we don't have a motive yet.
We know.
We don't have a motive yet.
What's happening with?
Really, that's CNN's position.
I mean, from law enforcement,
he just happened
Senator.
to fire the gun in celebration. You can't tell the motive.
Senator, that's not what I said, and I said law enforcement hasn't laid out a direct motive. They've laid out a lot of evidence here of these messages and what
actually
the
they
shooter
have.
said
They've
to
said that
family
he was a
members
left-wing
and to
activist who
roommates.
hated Charlie Kirk.
Exactly. She is flat out lying. Absolutely lying. Then there's ABC's Matt Gutman. ABC's Matt Gutman saw the same text messages we saw yesterday. The ones where the shooter calls his trans furry boyfriend, my love, yes, my love. And after this interaction where he literally told his boyfriend to delete the text thread, and the boyfriend may have known about this whole thing and didn't call the authorities, which means he's an accomplice. What's ABC's Matt Gutman's response to seeing these text messages?
We have seen an alleged murder with such specific text messages about the alleged murder weapon, where it was hidden, how it was placed, what was on it, but also it was very touching in a way that I think many of us didn't expect. A very intimate portrait into this relationship between the suspect's roommate and the suspect himself, with him repeatedly calling his roommate who is transitioning calling him my love, and I want to protect you, my love. So it was this duality of someone who the attorney said not only jeopardized the life of Charlie Kirk and the crowd, but was doing it in front of children, which is one of the aggravating circumstances of this case. And on the other hand, he was, speaking so lovingly about his partner. So a very interesting and, as Pierre said, riveting press conference, David.
Oh, speaking so lovingly about his partner while asking him to conceal the evidence and hide that he did it, and telling him his escape plan. Oh, so lovingly. This is the mainstream media. No matter how much you hate the media, you do not hate them enough. So ABC, I guess I should be thankful that Matt Gutman actually said what the motive was. The same motive that Caitlin Collins knew about, but didn't say anything about it. The same one, not Caitlin Clark, the basketball player, Caitlin Collins from CNN. But knew what the motive was, said there was no motive, flat out lied. You remember yesterday I played for you the clip of me on Newsmax going head-to-head with a Democratic strategist? And I absolutely demolished her, where she was quoting this Cato study, saying that all the violence came from the right, not the left. Well, you know what happens when you piss me off. I got lots of time at night, and I decided to go read. First, I had to find this Cato study that she was talking about. Then I had to go analyze it, and it's really a piece of work. Let me tell you, this is one of the most garbage studies I have ever seen. Why? Because it doesn't like the narrative. So what it does is it admits that it's changing the data. So even though the suspect confessed in text messages to his trans furry lover that he targeted Charlie Kirk specifically for his politics, and Utah Governor Spencer Cox confirmed Robinson had adopted leftist ideology, even though his bullet casings had carried Antifa inscriptions, even though his mother said he was moving more to the left, even though he said he was mad at Kirk's views on LGBTQ issues, even though he may have been in this Discord, that's an online chat platform, where he was discussing what he was going to do. We're not sure what his motive was. We're not sure. What are these statistics she's talking about? So I pulled up the Cato study. First of all, the Cato study, which is what the Democrats are using to base all their talking points off of. You have to know a little history to know how to debunk this study. And by the way, if you don't know history, you just do Google. So Cato begins its data set in 1975. And I said, that's a really weird time to start. If you're doing a study about violence, wouldn't you start at the beginning of the century? Or wouldn't you go back to, the beginning of the last century? It's really weird. Beginning of the country? What are we looking at here? Why 1975? And then I remembered what happened in the 60s and 70s. They're skipping over all the left-wing terrorism during the civil rights era. For example, the Black Panther Party wasn't just running breakfast programs. Between 1968 and 1973, they were involved in shootouts with police, also undertook assassinations. Their offshoot, the Black Liberation Army, executed multiple officers in the mid-1970s. The Weather Underground launched bombings of the U.S. Capitol, Pentagon, and State Department in 1971, 1972, and 1975, respectively. These attacks killed and injured Americans while terrorizing cities. Founders of the violent group, you might recognize these names, Bill Ayers and Bernadine Dorn, are the husband-wife duo that helped start the political career of Barack Hussein Obama. By starting their data set after 1975, exactly, Cato wipes away the most violent period of left-wing extremism in modern American history. So, let's see what else she was talking about. She said in the debate that they weren't counting BLM and Antifa. They reclassified them as anarchists, not leftists. So I called her out on that because Democrats literally knelt in Congress and across the country. You remember the Bellevue police chief kneeling before BLM to support BLM during the George Floyd riots. Calling Antifa and BLM not left-wing is just a word game. That is all it is. The report also minimized school shootings carried out in service to leftist ideology. The minimization is likely because many recent shooters and suspects have been identified as trans, and that movement is the holy grail for Democrats. Additionally, foil bombings, assassination attempts, and violent threats don't exist in Cato's numbers, even though FBI treats them as deadly serious. Political violence intimidates, silences, and spreads fear. But if no one dies, Cato pretends, it never happened. Erased from existence. Cato also downplays Islamic terror, lumping it in to a separate category as though it has nothing to do with U.S. politics. Yet, that is the left providing cover for jihadis. Democratic Representative Ilhan Omar dismissed 9/11 with "some people did something." Her fellow squad member, Representative Rashida Tlaib, was censured for spreading Hamas propaganda and demonizing Israel after October 7th. Former Progressive Caucus Chair, Representative Pramila Jayapal, the spokeswoman for Hamas, posted a 9/11 tribute 2 years in a row, mourning all lives lost, including the hijackers in her count. That is just the tip of the many Democrats who back the enemies of America over the United States itself. When Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro's home was firebombed on Passover in a clearly anti-Semitic attack, Democrats tried to brand it as right-wing violence. In reality, it was a pro-Hamas extremists. Those who back Hamas in the U.S. are affiliated with the left. I don't see Proud Boys for Palestine. I see Queers for Palestine out there. I see LGBTQ for Palestine. The same Democrats who want to wash their hands of Islamic terrorism are the ones amplifying its apologists here at home. Cato's data set also excludes or mislabels multiple deadly left-wing attacks in recent years. For example, Aaron J. Danielson, Portland in 2020, gunned down by Antifa militant Michael Reinl after a pro-Trump rally. Reinl later said, "I had no choice, I had to act." Dallas police ambush, 2016. Micah Johnson murdered 5 officers during a BLM protest. NYPD ambush in 2014. Ismael Brinsley executed 2 officers in their patrol car after posting about revenge for Michael Brown and Eric Garner. Tacoma ICE firebombing of 2019. Antifa militant William Van Sprossen attacked a detention facility with firebombs and a rifle. And during the 2020 riots, murders piled up across the U.S. David Dorn, a retired St. Louis police captain, was shot dead while protecting a store from looters. Italia Kelly, 22, killed in Davenport, Iowa, in protest crossfire. Chris Beatty, former Indiana University football player, was murdered during the Indianapolis rioting. In Seattle's Chaz Zone, multiple teenagers were gunned down in shootings after the city surrendered several blocks to Antifa and BLM militants. Need I remind you about that? Victims included 19-year-old Lorenzo Anderson and 16-year-old Antonio Mays Jr. Each of these deaths was tied to the unrest Democrats excused or even encouraged. Each fits Cato's terrorism definition, but not a single one of them are counted. So, basically, what this woman admitted in our interview yesterday is that they were manipulating the data. They weren't including the data. She literally said it when I was talking to her on live TV on Newsmax, which is why the clip is getting such attention right now. Shouldn't send out rookies because she admitted they're messing with the data on live TV. The left wins the argument by moving the data around, by changing the narrative. They pretend Antifa and BLM don't count as left, and suddenly numbers prove conservatives are the problem. Democrats fundraised for these rioters. They bailed them out. Kamala Harris was promoting a bail fund for the rioters. They called them fiery, but mostly peaceful protests. You kidding me? Pretending Antifa and BLM aren't left-wing is just as ridiculous as pretending the Weather Underground and the Black Panthers were just social clubs. From all available evidence presented by authorities so far, Charlie Kirk's murder was political, ideological, and rooted in left-wing rage. What do we hear all the time? Mike, I get this when I go out and do public events. What happens? You're triggering me. You're threatening me. You're harassing me. Am I doing anything to trigger, harass, or threaten these people? No. Words are violence. When you keep saying things like that because you don't like what I'm saying, when I'm being perfectly polite to you, you're saying now I'm a threat. You're labeling me as a threat because of something I said that you didn't like. That's what's going on, and they're using this Cato report to whitewash the left-wing violence and smear conservatives. But the facts it leaves out, from the bombs of the Weather Underground to the bullets of the Black Panthers to the police ambushes to the murders during BLM riots, to the anti-fascist inscriptions on the bullets that killed Charlie Kirk, prove otherwise. Now, this is absolutely insane that they're continuing with this. We know the facts. We know what actually happened. So the question is, when are we going to do something about Antifa? And this is something people ask me all the time, Ari, is there anything that you don't like about President Trump? Why can't he designate Antifa a terrorist organization right now? Why can't he do it right now? He's been saying he's going to do it for ages. What's the holdup? He was asked about this yesterday.
Given with all the that's going on with Charlie Kirk's assassination and the left-wing violence going on. Do you have plans, and actually this is a great opportunity with all these, do you plan on designating Antifa finally a domestic terror organization?
Well, it's something I would do, yeah. If I have support from the people back here, I think we'd start with Pam, I think. But I would, if you give me, I would do that 100%. And others also, by the way. But Antifa is terrible.
Are there other groups that you can think of?
There are other groups, yeah. There are other groups.
So what's the holdup? What's the holdup? You could do it right now if you want to. Are you waiting for more evidence? Stephen Miller was talking to J.D. Vance yesterday. Here's what he said.
We're going to go after the NGO network that foments, facilitates, and engages in violence. That's not okay. Violence is not okay in our system, and we want to make it less likely that that happens. Walk me through, at a high level, like what you and I have been working on, what the whole administration has been working on to try to make sure that we don't reward and promote this craziness.
So it's an excellent question. I said this before, but it bears repeating. The last message that Charlie sent me was, I think it was just the day before we lost him, which was that we need to have an organized strategy to go after the left-wing organizations that are promoting violence in this country. And I will write those words onto my heart, and I will carry them out. If people ask me, what emotions I'm feeling right now, it's just something people say. I mean, you kind of know the answer. There's incredible sadness, but there's incredible anger. And the thing about anger is that unfocused anger or blind rage is not a productive emotion.
Right.
But focused anger, righteous anger, directed for a just cause is one of the most important agents of change in human history.
Charlie showed that. Amen.
And we are going to channel all of the anger that we have over the organized campaign that led to this assassination to uproot and dismantle these terrorist networks. So let me explain a little bit what that means. So,
Got 30 seconds, so be quick, Stephen.
The organized doxing campaigns, the organized riots, the organized street violence, the organized campaigns of dehumanization, vilification, posting people's addresses, combining that with messaging that's designed to trigger and incite violence, and the actual organized cells that carry out and facilitate the violence, it is a vast domestic terror movement. And with God as my witness, we are going to use every resource we have at the Department of Justice, Homeland Security, and throughout this government to identify, disrupt, dismantle, and destroy these networks and make America safe again for the American people. It will happen, and we will do it.
I'm not saying doxing isn't a problem. I've been doxed myself. But my question is, why aren't you going after their finances? These groups raise money. These groups buy things. These groups coordinate. You need proof? I've got all the proof you need of coordination between Seattle and Portland. Get me, Katie Daviscourt, Jonathan Cho, Brandy Cruz, and Andy Ngo in a room together. We'll make your case for you. What are you waiting on? Is the president going to announce it at the funeral or something? What are you waiting on? There is nothing to stop the president from declaring this right now. Because in the meantime, the left is emboldened. In the meantime, Antifa is emboldened. Jasmine Crockett was back to calling people in the Trump administration, Republicans, fascists again today. Look, they should all be asked. Do you think BLM did violent riots? Yes or no? Do you think Trump and the GOP are fascists? Because here's the thing, if you keep saying that, it feeds into the same thing with permission structure, where you say, well, because they're as bad as Nazis, you can go kill them because it's okay to kill a Nazi. This is their whole premise, is that anybody we disagree with is a Nazi. They want to say white supremacists are tied to the GOP, but they don't want to say BLM, Antifa, pro-Hamas are all tied to the Democrats. You got to ask them that question. You got to stay in their faces, and you got to ask them why they are ignoring these data sets and leaving them out of their studies. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from John in Redmond. John, what's going on?
Hello, Ari. I need some education. Is there anything in the Quran that is as succinct and instructive for a civil society as the Ten Commandments?
I don't know it that well. I've read it once, and I can't say I read it thoroughly with commentaries and stuff, so I don't want to speak for that. But what's the point, sir?
My question is the Christians and the Jewish people are being vilified daily, if not hourly. And yet we find that the Muslim population is willing to do anything in their powers to destroy the Jewish people and the Christian people. They are the great Satans. And if that is all that we find in the Quran, that everybody else is a bunch of a-holes and we are the great ones, that's a pretty shallow.
Well, I'll tell you this about what I remember from the Quran from my one time reading it without commentary. The one time reading it through was it's pretty much every other religion on crack, dialed up to 11. It's a very, very extreme version, and it makes it very, very clear what it wants. There's not much wiggle room there of what it's calling for in many cases. Just take a look at Sharia law. So with regards to that, you might want to say, is this ideology? If you hold it literally, if you hold it to exactly what it says, is it compatible with Judeo-Christian values in America? And actually, later in the show, we're going to tell you what happened in Deerfield, Michigan, when a guy had an objection to renaming states after Hezbollah terrorists, Hezbollah terrorist supporters. That's what it was. And the mayor, who's Muslim, by the way, yelled at the guy. We'll have that one for you later, John. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, more of your calls, more of your texts, plus a car jumped the University Bridge near UW while it was open today. We'll play the insane cop audio for you when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. I have had too many Seattle-centric experiences today. In my other life, I do some real estate management, so I had to get some reports printed today. I know, printed on actual paper. So I go out to Office Depot, the one up on Airport Way. I haven't been there in years. The last time I was there, it wasn't looking too pretty, by the way. It's right across from a meth clinic. Oh, I'm pretty sure the warlord of the Autonomous Zone used to have his studio over there, his rap studio. I think it's over there somewhere. But the place is just drugged out zombies. So here's my full Seattle experience at Office Depot. Yes, I didn't even know they were still open. I actually did a search on the GPS to make sure they were still open. So I go over there, and I walk in, and I walk up to the print shop. By the way, I so miss the Costco print shops. Those places were amazing. You could get anything. It was cheap, and you could get it done quickly. And I said to the guy, hey, I got one file, one PDF file. Would you mind printing this for me on this flash drive? And he goes, oh, we don't do that. And I'm kind of looking around. You're a print shop. What do you mean? And he goes, behind you, those are automatic machines. Okay, so hang on a second. $20 minimum wage. There you go. Automatic printers right behind you. That's a Seattle experience. And he goes, here's my favorite part. When I said, can't you just print this out for me? He goes, it's cheaper if you use the machine. Okay. Advocate for you not having a job anymore. All right, fine. I mean, I appreciate the advice, appreciate the tip, but sure. So I put the thing in, and after finding out it's going to cost me $50 to print 2 reports that are not even that long, $50. While I'm waiting for this thing to print, a homeless vagrant runs out the front door with something, with the guy who looks like he's part of the Geek Squad from Office Depot following him, just radioing, and I'm not sure who he's radioing. Guy runs out the door, he stole a bag. Who are you radioing? There's nobody by the door. Who are you talking to? Is that inventory control? Oh, lost another one? So I go over to the nice lady to check out because I'm having tech problems with the printer actually taking my money. So I take my little receipt, I walk over to the checkout, and while she's ringing me up, I said, excuse me, ma'am, does that happen often? And she goes, it always happens when I'm here. I said, how often do you work? And she says, every day. Every day that happens. And then she says this to me. She says, well, usually he's just stealing toilet paper and shampoo and stuff. I said, theft is theft. They've become so used to it that it just happens all the time that, oh, no, well, you know, at least he wasn't stealing a computer. At least he wasn't stealing something big like a TV. It's just toilet paper. He needs it. He needs it. What a Seattle experience. Then, today, I saw Cairo 7 reporters were sharing the video of a guy jumping the University Place bridge in his car. I kid you not. What's happening is everybody stopped. The bridge is up. As the bridge is coming down, this guy blows through the arms that are blocking traffic, jumps the bridge, just jumps right over it. And the cops are chasing him, and they stop before the jump. I didn't know whether to cheer that he made it. Exactly. Or cheer that, like I chant that I wanted him to go in the water. I don't know which one. It was nuts. It was absolutely nuts. Of course, my first thought is, was this a stolen car? Because it looks like a family car. It doesn't look like some mom who's in a rush for carpool. Listen to the police scanner on this one.
He actually made the jump over the bridge and plowed through the sign on the other side. Can you let North know? Or is he supposed to make maybe jump over the bridge and plow through the sign?
We live in the most crazy city. We live in the craziest city. This is what's going on in Seattle now. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Bennett, our frenemy, the protester. Bennett, what's up, man?
All right. Were you thinking of Caitlin Clark because we just won our WNBA playoff? Are you a secret WNBA fan? I don't think you mentioned that on the air before.
Very good. Dude, I got to tell you, I didn't even know the season's going on. I really didn't.
Oh, I did. I was there because I was hoping to make fun of the street preacher again if they went there with their 90 decibel megaphone to yell at people.
Well, I'll tell you something. Actually, I got an email that I have to read on air one day from somebody who works at the stadium, and I think you're going to actually like that story when I get to it.
Okay. Well, in the meantime, you're talking about the level of discourse and about calling people Nazis and trying to bring the temperature down a little bit. I would invite you to, and you don't have to decide now. Would you reconsider the statement that you made previously about how the Jewish people who go to the rallies protesting the bombing on Gaza, you said they are the same as the ones who would have turned the rest of us into the Nazis? I think that's contributing to the problem rather than dialing it down.
So here's my problem with that. I'm seeing parallels in history. And the parallels in history in that case is something I'm concerned about. But because you asked me to, I'll give it a think. How's that for you, Bennett?
Okay. I mean, you literally did say you see the people you see protesting bombing Gaza who are Jewish are the ones who would have turned the rest of us into the Nazis. And
I
remember,
have 100%. I am owning it. I'm not disagreeing with you. I am owning that. However, like you and I have discussed before, there's a lot of them who are pretending to be Jewish as well. That's a different discussion for a different time. But what I find interesting is that a lot of these people use their Jewish identity to say this isn't about Judaism when clearly they've never studied it, like the gal from the Emmys, the Golden Globes, whatever award we had this week, where she's like, this is Jewish, this isn't Jewish. You know what she said because she got such backlash the other day? She was talking about, let me do something truly Jewish, eat a pickle. What? Like, that's what we're talking about here. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I also agree about use of identity politics. I say it doesn't matter who you are, an argument should stand on its own regardless. But separately from that, I mean, you had also talked about the bit about how you don't think most of the people who are there claiming to be Jewish are actually Jewish. And then you were saying they don't look very Jewish. And I was like, I've been to the same thing. I think it's kind of gross to have to settle it by whether they look Jewish or not. But I've seen that those people do look pretty Jewish. And it's not a reliable. I look more Jewish
Well, I'll
than
tell you
do,
this. Bennett, I'll say this about you for a second. The thing I do like about you is that, yes, you truly live that. Whatever you're protesting for, whatever you're advocating for, you are a person who says it should base on its arguments, not on the person, not on anything else, which is why you call the show, which is why you interact. I promise you, I'll give it a think. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, the Fed is finally lowering interest rates, which is huge. Does this mean the economy's about to boom? We'll get into it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Just before we get into our economic news about what the Fed did today, I did what Bennett asked me to do. I gave it a think during the 4 minutes we had during that last commercial break. And what I realized is, and I'm not blaming Bennett for this one, but it's something I'm getting kind of sick of. When the left is at fault, suddenly they always want everyone to calm down and use uniting language. When the right is at fault, the left calls us Nazis all the time. And even when the left is at fault, they call us Nazis. This is what's happening all the time. I'm kind of getting a little sick of it. The left needs to admit their mistakes for creating a culture where they are demonizing people as people rather than their arguments. They need to promise not to repeat them. And until then, we're going to keep calling them out. And if you don't want me to use the capo comparison, that's fine. Instead, I'll say this. Jews who use their Jewish identity to criticize Israel but not for anything else are playing identity politics to try and get me to shut up even though I know what I'm talking about. And they're trying to say, oh, I'm wrong. I know what I'm talking about. I'm not playing the identity politics game anymore. The identity politics grift is over. That's it. Because what bothers me is people say, because of my identity, I know the facts better than you. That's not the case. I happen to know a lot of things about Judaism because I'm a practicing Jew. I happen to know a lot of things about politics because I do politics. We had a caller earlier called me with a question about the Quran. What was the first thing I said? I've read it once. I didn't read it with the commentaries. I'm not going to say, well, because I'm a Jew and we deal with Muslims all the time, I know about the Quran. No, that's ridiculous. But there are people who go out there and say, I identify as X to give me street credit. And I'm getting really, really tired of the identity politics where because I identify a certain way, I know better. Tell me, who do you think knows more about history? Me, a guy who reads books on history all the time, or somebody who failed out of school, is terrible and is terrible at history, can barely read English because they went to a Seattle public school, but because they happen to be black, they know more about civil rights than I do. No. It has nothing to do with the color of your skin. It has to do with how much time you went into learning a subject. I hate the identity politics. I really, I was talking to somebody the other day about the death threats I get. And they said, well, I know what you're talking about because I'm black. What does that mean? What does that even mean? Does that mean you get death threats as well? Anyway, switching gears over to the economy. Looking at the economy today, the Fed announced that they're actually going to start lowering interest rates, and they're going to keep lowering them through the end of the year. This is huge. This is huge. There is one concern, though. What the concern is that if inflation skyrockets, if we haven't really cooled down inflation, if the government keeps spending, we got a problem. Now, what you need to do is you need the money coming in to pay down the debt. You need to pay off what we're spending. You need to do that. If you're not doing that and the interest rates are going down, you might see an explosion of inflation because too much money will be injected back into the economy. Do I think we should be doing this? Yes, but we should be checking it along the way. And I know it's kind of out of the news these days and people aren't paying attention to Doge anymore, but we should be following the cuts that they're making. We need to keep making the cuts, and I haven't heard anything about rescissions. You know, the only thing I hear about Congress these days is what dumb thing they said on social media or during an interview. Do these guys actually pass laws? Do these guys actually deal with budgets? Because until you guys actually address this stuff, it doesn't matter if the Democrats are in power or the Republicans in power. Both parties spend on their own priorities. Until you get the spending out of control, you're not going to fix the economic problems. I know the stock market loved what happened today. I know a lot of you are going, now I can buy a car, now I can buy a house, and I'm happy for you. I really, really am. But you got to watch inflation as you do this. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Leonard in Shoreline. Leonard, what's up?
Nothing much. You know, after hearing you play that scanner clip about that idiot jumping over the university bridge like that, that kind of makes me think that the Dukes of Hazzard was played out in real life.
That's kind of what it was, Leonard. That's kind of what it was. We're just watching it. The clip's over on my socials. You can find it at Ari Hoffman Official on Facebook and Instagram, The Hofffather over on Twitter. And in fact, I put the Dukes of Hazzard music behind it over on Instagram and Facebook if you go check it out there. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, the left absolutely loses it over a pride flag being flown at half-mast for Charlie Kirk. Oh, this stuff is so much fun sometimes. I'll tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. This story cracked me up from its original source, so we're going to quote the Los Angeles Times, even though this is definitely not a book, definitely not an outlet in my little black book of the right-wing media conspiracy, most definitely in Mao's little red book of the media. Here we go. You ready for this one? It's okay to laugh at these things, guys. We need a little bit of humor in the world these days. I'm quoting from them. I did not write this. In the queer enclave of West Hollywood, some residents were furious at the sight of a pride flag and a transgender flag lowered to half-staff to mourn Charlie Kirk's assassination. In the city of Los Angeles, an internal fire department memo saying flags should stay raised sparked conservative anger at Mayor Karen Bass. And in Huntington Beach, where MAGA politics are warmly received, officials pledged to honor Kirk's memory by keeping flags lowered for an additional week past the mourning period set up by President Trump. The controversial right-wing commentator's slaying last Wednesday ruptured cultural fault lines across the country, exacerbating fears of political violence, triggering campaigns to punish those who responded crudely, and prompting the president to escalate attacks on his foes. Do you hear how mad they are? Do you hear that? Oh, we're going to get mad at the conservatives and Republicans for being mad that one of our friends got assassinated. How dare we? How dare we? Gee, I wonder why the temperatures turned up so high in the country, Los Angeles Times. Just the way, was it so hard to say? Conservative commentator Charlie Kirk was assassinated. And the reaction and the sadness and the mourning and the rage and the 7 steps of grief, and he had 2 kids. Is it so hard? But instead, you got to say that? But here we go. Amid the national maelstrom, Trump's unusual decision to order flags lowered to half-staff at public buildings, timeout. Obama and Biden did this nonsense all the time. They would always be like, I'm lowering it for this guy you've never heard of before. Here you have somebody who is involved in politics, who's part of the national conversation, who does his best to help win an election, and you're mad about? They would pick whatever random cultural identity person they want to pick that day. I would have to go Google why flags were lowered half the times for the people they did this. Oh, stop. Just stop. So, the unusual decision to order flags lowered to half-staff at public buildings to memorialize a private citizen has been a flashpoint at the municipal level. You hear how mad they are about this? The fallout was exacerbated tensions in major cities and small towns, including in Southern California, as local officials choose whether to comply and found wrath on either end of the decision. Tell me you have a word count to fill without telling me you have a word count to fill. We are now 5 paragraphs into this thing, and they still haven't told us what happened. Kirk, 31, founder of the conservative, blah, 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 blah. Oh, here we go. And he's anti-immigrant, anti-LGBTQ, anti-black, all this stuff. It's not unprecedented for a president to lower flags. Okay, what happened, guys? Let's get there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 paragraphs in. 2 days after Kirk's death, a screenshot of an internal Los Angeles Fire Department memo said that city flags should be raised unless directed by the mayor, began to go viral on social media. Many lambasted Bass for not ordering the flags lowered, with some accusing her of defying the president. Okay, spokesperson said that, spokesperson said this. Okay. Farragon said that a local official's choice not to lower flags, blah, blah, blah. Moving on, what actually happened? So, wait, I'm reading this whole article. I'm getting down here. Where are we here of what actually happened? Here we go. Several firehouses lowered their flags to half-staff anyway. We're down in the 20th paragraph. In a fiercely progressive West Hollywood, a local news outlet posted an Instagram video of the city's rainbow pride flag and blue, white, pink transgender flag lowered to half-staff, blowing in a light breeze. Thousands of people commented. With most irate or confused, the city was memorializing one of the nation's most prominent anti-transgender voices, especially with the pride and transgender flags. Some asked if it was meant as satire. Okay, do you realize this whole article is a hit piece? This entire thing is a hit piece, using one place that did this with the flags as the impetus for doing the rest of it. Tell me again about turning down the temperature in the country when the guy's not even in the ground yet, and you guys are still writing garbage like this, Los Angeles Times. When we come back, lots more to discuss as the show continues. The homeless numbers are really, really bad. And what's amazing to me is the Seattle Times doesn't seem to understand why. We'll tell you why they're so much worse, plus bring you the latest on the shooting out in Pennsylvania. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, the superintendent in Kent doubles down on his anti-conservative and religious rhetoric with regards to Charlie Kirk. But before we get to any of that, time for some breaking news for you right now.
Talk Radio 570 KVI. Breaking news on the Ari Hoffman Show.
3 law enforcement officers were killed and 2 others were wounded in a shooting in Pennsylvania this afternoon. The shooter is also dead by a self-inflicted gunshot wound, which means he killed himself. I'm getting this from NBC News right now. Police were apparently serving a warrant in York County when they were fired upon. Quote, there are simply no words I can offer to assuage the grief that the community has experienced, says Pennsylvania State Police Commissioner Colonel Christopher Paris. The 2 surviving officers were in critical but stable condition at the hospital. Dave Miller told NBC affiliate WGAL of Lancaster that he was driving home, pulled over to clear the way for police, and heard the gunfire. He said, I looked over to the right, and I saw police in the barn looking like they were looking for someone. Then I heard the gunshots ring out, and I saw people on the ground. Miller said the person on the ground appeared to be a police officer. He said he heard around 30 shots. It was just continuous, he said. Lots of shots, more than what I could count. The first 911 call came in from North Codorus Township at 2:10 p.m., said Ted Check of the York County Office of Emergency Management. Pennsylvania State Police are investigating. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro asked for prayers for the families of the officers. He called it a tragic and devastating day. He said he spent time with the families of the officers, and even though the grieving took time to say how proud they are of their loved ones and put on the uniform to keep us all safe. The officers who were wounded are being treated at Wolfspan York Hospital. Now, something else that's interesting here, I have what he said. I don't have the clip for you yet. I'll see if I can get it later in the show. But Josh Shapiro, the governor, the Democratic governor of Pennsylvania, said something interesting. He could have done the usual Democrat thing. He could have said, let's ban guns. Apparently, he didn't do that. He was saying we need to do a better job of intervening early with mental health issues before those people pick up a gun. That's an interesting talking point for him because that's something that's an 80-20 issue. Even the most diehard, gun-toting, whoever's you want to say they are going to say, yes, somebody who's deranged in the mind shouldn't have a gun unless they go, no, Second Amendment, Second Amendment, Second Amendment. And I'm not attacking the Second Amendment. But I think we can all agree that somebody who's not right in the head shouldn't have a gun. Can we all agree on this? I know. Second Amendment, I'm with you. I have guns. Got lots of guns. We love the Second Amendment. But I think somebody who's mentally deranged should not have access to firearms. You agree with me? Not agree with me? When we talk about red flag laws, we talk about that. So, by the way, that actually ties back to the argument we were having last week before the tragedy that happened to Charlie Kirk about whether or not people who are trans have a mental condition and whether or not they should have access to firearms. But this is actually a very middle-of-the-road position to take that's an 80-20 issue, where Josh Shapiro says we need to deal with the mental health issues. Clearly, somebody who opens fire on police and then blows their own head off is not right in the head. I'm actually kind of impressed that he said this, and he's no fool, by the way. Good on him. Give him credit where credit is due. Actually, this does make me look at 2028 a little differently. And I hate to do this based on this tragedy, but looking at a guy like Josh Shapiro, nobody's talking about Josh Shapiro as the nominee right now for the Democrats. But I think right now he's the only name I could think of which might give them a chance. Gavin Newsom doesn't give them a chance. Some people might be dumb and vote for Gavin Newsom because they go, oh, he looks good, or he's slick, or he talks well, or you fall for a snake oil salesman bit. Maybe. And you might say, okay, let's vote for Gavin Newsom. And there are people who are dumb who do that. The same people who go, I'm going to vote for Bill Clinton because he plays the saxophone. Those kind of people are the ones who vote for a Gavin Newsom. But the truth is, if the Democrats want to be smart about this, they pick somebody like Josh Shapiro, who doesn't come off as ideologically crazy. You know why they aren't going to pick him, Mike? For the same reason they didn't pick him as vice president. Because the far, far left is going to hate him. Why? Because he's Jewish. Because he supports Israel. They're going to go bonkers over that. Just watch. This is going to be really fun to watch the party meltdown. That's not the only breaking news we have for you right now.
Talk Radio 570 KVI. Breaking news on the Ari Hoffman Show.
I'm getting this from Variety, not usually a breaking news outlet we use around here. Disney's ABC said it would take Jimmy Kimmel's show off its schedule indefinitely. They're taking it off air. Why are they taking it off air? Because of a comment he made about Charlie Kirk. Nexstar Media said it would preempt the airings of the program following remarks the host made about the killing of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. Nexstar said Wednesday that its owned and partner television stations affiliated with the ABC television network will preempt Jimmy Kimmel Live for the foreseeable future, beginning with tonight's show. The company said it strongly objects to the recent comments made by Mr. Kimmel concerning the killing of Charlie Kirk and will replace the show with other programming in its ABC-affiliated markets. In his monologue Monday night, I have not heard it. Kimmel said, because nobody's heard it. Let's be real about this. Probably the only people who are watching were the executives. Kimmel said that the MAGA gang was trying to score political points off Kirk's murder. No. Well, apparently, that's what he said. Quote, we hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang trying to characterize this kid who killed Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them. Wait a second. He said this Monday night? Monday night, we already knew a lot of the information about the shooter. And Jimmy Kimmel, even after an entire weekend of the left's narrative that it's the right being debunked, he still doubled down and went with this? Okay. There's a joke somebody told me. Actually, I said this to somebody one time. I used to run this youth organization. At the end of the year, you have this big conference, and everybody does skits about their different chapters for the youth conference. And I remember one time, these kids went up there and did a skit, and the rabbis pulled it off stage. It was so filthy and disgusting. Even I was kind of a little bit put off by it. And I go up to the kids afterward, and I said, guys, if you're going to be disgusting, you got to be funny. Think about the gross out comedies and things like that. If you're going to be lewd and crude and whatever, you got to be funny. Because you weren't funny and you were just lewd and crude, nobody really found it entertaining. It was just kind of cringe-worthy. I don't think I used the word cringe because this was like 20 years ago. But here's the thing with Jimmy Kimmel. This is the same thing with Stephen Colbert. This is the same thing with all of them. Are you a comedian? Are you a political commentator? If you want to be a political commentator, then go do what Greg Gutfeld does, but do it for MSNBC. By the way, MSNBC, if they're smart, you know what they'll do? They will hire Jimmy Kimmel. They will hire Stephen Colbert, and they will put that up on the late night against everybody else because they already have a built-in audience, and it's more than MSNBC gets right now. So I would actually recommend you do that. It's a new model. MSNBC is the lowest rated primetime demographic of the news outlets on cable. So if that's the case, I actually say hire all of them. Hire Seth Meyers, hire Stephen Colbert, hire Jimmy Kimmel, and maybe your ratings will go up a little bit. If they want to be political pundits who are occasionally funny, even though I don't find them funny anymore. When's the last time I laughed at something Jimmy Kimmel did? I think Jimmy Kimmel hasn't been funny since The Man Show, really. Are we allowed to admit that we watched The Man Show? I kind of like The Man Show. All right, I know, I like that kind of stuff. The last time I found Jimmy Kimmel funny, I remember exactly when it was. It was during the 2015 World Series. Jimmy Kimmel's a Mets fan, and there were a lot of jokes made at his expense about the Mets losing the World Series to the Kansas City Royals. I remember in 2015 also he did that great bit where he had Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd come in for the Back to the Future anniversary. I remember that was a pretty good bit. But it's really been a long time since I saw anything from Jimmy Kimmel I thought was funny. If you guys want to be political commentators, that's fine. But people chill in for the late night TV to forget about the rest of the day, to laugh a little. That's how they've been conditioned. And the reason they're going over to Gutfeld is so they can laugh a little and they're not watching you guys. If they want to laugh a little, you have a choice between sitcom that'll make me laugh, drama, murder show, which the women love, reality TV, and then you guys. If they want the news, they'll go to the news. They're looking for the comedy. And then you say something like this, which has been completely debunked. Watch, Mike, prediction right now. I don't even know. I know what's going to happen, okay? It is 4:12 p.m. on September 17th. How soon until they say it's because Trump made them do it, because it was the media merger with all these different things. And just watch, Trump made them take Jimmy Kimmel off the air. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. Too bad we had the Emmys like last night, or what was it, Sunday night, because then he could be applauded with Stephen Colbert. Now he has to wait till next year, right? That's what, guaranteed they're going to say Trump did this. Orange man bad. He did this. Meanwhile, Seth Meyers is like looking over his shoulder like, when are they coming for me? When are they coming like that? Seth Meyers probably thinking, oh, my ratings are going up. There's no more funny on late night TV. Give me all these guys. Switching gears back to what's going on here at home before we had all the breaking news, the Seattle Times had this story. It says in the headline, homelessness in Washington is growing, but at a slower rate. Why? Well, I'm just going to read from their article, and you guys can play along together at home. The number of people who are sleeping outside or in emergency shelters in Washington increased about 2.2% from January 2024 to January 2025, according to the state's own numbers. Now, we know that their snapshot report is completely inaccurate, and if anything, it is lowballing the situation. But according to them, ready for this one? This is in Washington State. 158,791 people were living in emergency shelters or unhoused in January 2025. 158,791. Need I remind you that when they declared homelessness an emergency and a crisis, there were 3,000 homeless people on the streets of Seattle. Now I believe we're up to somewhere between 18 and 30, depending on whose numbers you believe. You've spent billions, if not trillions of dollars at this point, and now you have 158,791 people living in emergency shelters or unhoused. Let me ask a question. How many paragraphs do you think it's going to be until the Seattle Times mentions drugs? Shall I keep reading? While homeless populations are uniquely hard to fully count, so they're admitting it's inaccurate, the state snapshot report combines data on housing status from 3 state agencies to be one of the most comprehensive numbers available in Washington. The population of people living outside, third paragraph, or in emergency shelters throughout Washington has been marching steadily upward for years. State officials are claiming some victory and seeing the increase slow after the end of the pandemic-era renter relief program. Give me a break. Oh, shut up. That is not what it is. Give me a break. Fourth paragraph, but looming budget cuts for homeless. Here we go. It's going to be the budget cuts, pandemic cutoffs, money. Let's scroll down a little bit here, tightening the purse strings, cuts loom at the federal level. Oh, here we go. President Trump. Hang on. How many paragraphs did it take until they blamed Trump? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Wow, that's a record. I'm shocked they didn't blame him in the opening paragraph. But we're 14 paragraphs in, and they still haven't mentioned what they love to call the root causes of homelessness. They've made it about housing affordability. They've made it about renters. They've made it about Trump. But you and I both know what causes homelessness. Drugs, crime, mental health. Okay, so let's keep going here. 18th paragraph. Efforts across the state to address homelessness are important, blah, 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 blah. Once we reach stabilization, then we need sustained and scaled efforts to continue to push the levels of homelessness down. Proof of that, housing available to low incomes. Oh, give me a break. Rental markets, blah, 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 blah. Vacancies, high rents. Haven't seen drugs anywhere here yet. Pandemic era funding, homelessness in Pierce County. Okay. This article has to be 3,000 to 5,000 words, and they have not mentioned drugs at all in it. They have not mentioned mental health at all in it. They have not mentioned crime in it. And these are the state officials who are tasked with dealing with it. And this is the Seattle Times who is supposed to be covering this. So where's your homelessness lab? right? Don't you guys get a grant to cover that from somebody? Don't you guys have your homelessness lab? You guys have had this thing for what, 10, 15 years now? And you still haven't figured out what causes the street problem. It's not homeless. It's not rents. These people are not all fired by Bezos. As we have discussed time and time again, it is the drug addiction crisis. It is the fentanyl crisis. It is heroin. It is all the drugs. It is all the mental health problems because a normal person doesn't want to live on the streets. If God forbid, I lost my job and I was homeless and I had to provide for my family, I know where I could go. I would find a place. There are shelters available. There are friends available. There are nonprofits available. If God forbid I didn't have any friends or family to help me out, we have those nonprofits. If the state ones are terrible, there's the ones run by religious organizations. And if God forbid that happened to my family and we had to go somewhere and we didn't have anywhere else to go, I don't care if it's a religious organization where you got to sit through a mass. There's food on the table and there's a roof over your head, and they'll provide you what you need to survive. There is no reason anybody should be on the streets of Washington unless they don't have a rational thought in their heads to say, I shouldn't be out here. What do we see when we're driving through Seattle all the time? The fentanyl fold everywhere. When we were out at the Washington State Fair this week, people were talking to me constantly about how bad it's gotten in Pierce County, about how bad it's gotten in Tacoma, about how bad it's gotten everywhere. This is not a problem unique to Seattle anymore. It used to be, oh, Seattle, they have those problems. No, it's everywhere. I was driving in Georgetown today, which I don't get back to as often as I used to. My office used to be in Georgetown. And I'm driving around Georgetown today, and all the RVs are back. All the RVs in all the usual hot spots. And there's canopies and there's tents. And now they're setting up in between the giant concrete blocks that were put there to keep them out in the first place. Nobody's doing anything about it because the mayor figures, who the hell's going to Georgetown? Nobody's going to notice. We can dump everything over there. This problem has just been a giant game of whack-a-mole because the people tasked with solving it just say, where's the money? They're literally like Prince John in that Robin Hood movie. Taxes, taxes, taxes. That's what they're doing. And they're not actually dealing with the issue because if they actually dealt with the issue, all of a sudden, they wouldn't be able to justify that funding anymore. When a 5-year-old gets raped in one of the city and county funded homeless encampments, taxpayer-funded drug dens in Tent City 3, you have a problem. I thought you said these places were going to be monitored. I thought you said these places were supervised. And you're not dealing with it at all. You're not dealing with the drugs. You're not dealing with the crime. You're not dealing with the public safety aspect. You're not dealing with the mental health aspect. Instead, you are spewing the same nonsense we've heard 1,000 times on the failed housing first model. It's about housing affordability. By trying to push this failed model, you have made this area unaffordable for the rest of us. And I don't know if you saw this. Washington's growth has finally slowed. I was wondering when we were going to see this. That's right. U-Haul tracked more people moving out of Washington. I was kind of surprised it didn't happen during the pandemic, but what was happening was people were coming up from California because they hated what California looked like, even though they're the ones who voted for it, but they still want to live in a blue state, so they came up here. There's nobody left to leave California anymore, I guess. Or at least they're saying, hey, we're going to stick around here. Because now the population growth in Washington is finally going down. Not that that's a good thing. But when you have businesses moving out, and now you don't have people moving in, and you've got your streets looking the way ours do, even in an election year, which is usually when they clean everything up, this is the problem. And the people in charge just keep doubling down, tripling down, quadrupling down on failure. When we come back, my friends, speaking of failures and failing school districts, the Kent School District Superintendent would rather play games over political issues than educate anybody's kids. We'll tell you his latest stunt when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. You know, sometimes you got to say, I'm just going to take the L, or you can double down on your stupid position. And that's exactly what the superintendent of the Kent School District is doing. We got a story for you right now. You're not going to get anywhere else.
Talk Radio 570 KVI, an Ari Hoffman Show exclusive.
Israel Vela. No, he's not Jewish. Superintendent of the Kent School District in Washington is now doubling down on his unilateral decision to not lower flags for the weekend to honor Charlie Kirk, as per the president's orders, and Charlie Kirk and the Minnesota officials who were killed, according to Governor Bob Ferguson's orders. One of the employees sent me a screenshot of an email they got from him. The headline is Superintendent Communication Check-in /Update. Dear Team Kent School District, I want to take a moment to check in. I recognize my recent decision about the flag display has brought some challenges and attracted attention both within our community and beyond. While this has not affected everyone the same way, I want to acknowledge that the situation could be difficult to navigate. Your dedication, professionalism, and care for our students during this time has not gone unnoticed. The decision was one I made, grounded in our core values of equity, excellence, and community. So your decision to not do something that a bunch of your students and parents wanted is valuing the community, is valuing equity. It seems like the complete opposite. It seems like you're choosing one over the other. How does this make you excellent, by the way? Does this help your education standards in any way, shape, or form? No. Instead, it sets a terrible example that you are petty. Petty, petty, petty. What kind of example does that set for your students? By the way, students more likely to have seen Charlie Kirk's videos than listen to anything you say, dummy. This choice was not made lightly, but with a deep commitment to standing by those values. What? Against conservatism? Against traditional family values? Against the Bible? I also want to recognize that while this decision has sparked varied reactions, many staff members and parents have reached out to express their gratitude. Okay, I'll take things that never happened for 500, Alec. I mean, what? They probably, a few of them, a handful of them did, but you've had overwhelming backlash, not just from the parents, but from the community. They have shared how much this action made them feel seen, valued, and supported. You know what that means? You have a terrible staff. You have a terrible staff. Mike, I don't know about your teachers growing up. I knew I had one crazy Woodstocky teacher because they were just crazy Woodstocky, but that's how we thought of them. It wasn't in any of their lesson plans. I didn't know the politics of any of my teachers. Not a single one growing up. In fact, when I went to college, now granted, I went to a Jewish private college, but at the same time, I didn't know about political ideology in the classroom so much until I started going, wait a minute, this doesn't actually fit the facts. Yes, even in my private Jewish college, we had some lefty professors who were teaching some interesting things, shall we say. So wait a minute. You're now happy your staff backs your decision. Well, because you can't be wrong, right? So now you've got an entire school district filled with staff that wants to be political. How many of them have pride flags hanging in the classroom? How many of them have trans flags hanging in the classroom? How many of them have BLM posters in the classroom? How many of them have things that support Hamas or say free Palestine in the classroom? Are these the values of your staff? It is important we hold on to those moments of affirmation as we move forward together. As we move ahead, I want to ensure you have the support you need. Please let us know what additional resources or supports could help you and your teams navigate these complex times. Your well-being and ability to continue our work in serving students and families is a healthy and productive way, is a priority. Thank you for your continued commitment to our district's mission, the students and families we serve. How is this serving the Republican families? How is this serving the Christian families? Together, we will continue to foster one community, one community divided in half, grounded in respect, inclusivity, and shared purpose. All right, now you've made my list. Now you've done it. Here's what I want. If anybody's having problems with teachers in the Kent School District, with them pushing radical ideology, send it to us. I want to see their lesson plans. Send me what you got. I know you're holding on to them from your kids. Email me, ari@kvi.com. That's ari@kvi.com. I want to know what they're pushing these kids. Because if the staff is telling him they like what he did, they are as radical as he is. And they shouldn't be in the classroom. But there's something else here, guys. This shows how rotten the entire school district is. Now, we have reports that the school board didn't know about this. So you know what this guy's doing? This is how he is justifying what he did. Oh, the parents came to me, like 2 parents said they liked what I did, and like 3 teachers or all the teachers came to me and said they like what I did. He's trying to put this out there, and he sent it to the media after I published it, by the way, to try and get ahead of the story. Too late, it was already out there. He sent it to the media so that he could try and play the victim because there's a school board meeting coming up next week. There's a school board meeting coming up next week, and the school board is not on board with this. At least a couple members have reached out to me, and I know they're not on board with this, even though they don't like our politics. These are people who go, a guy died. We shouldn't politicize it. End of story. That's it. But instead, this guy took it upon himself to do this, and in the process, made national headlines. So, if you have curriculum from any of these schools, if you have audio, video recordings of any of their lessons, of any of this radical education in the Kent School District, we want to see it. ARI@KVI.com. That's ARI@KVI.com. When we come back, my friends, Bruce Harrell is so desperate to win an election that now he is promising to pay reparations, even though our city doesn't have any of the money to actually do it. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including a $50 Daniels Broiler gift card and tickets to see The Who at Climate Pledge Arena. Yet another reason to always keep your radio tuned to 570 KVI, left on your dial, always right on the issues. You can also stream us at KVI.com, download the KVI app, and of course subscribe on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. So Seattle's facing a major budget crisis. Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell is in deep trouble with his reelect. So what he's going to start doing? Giving things away. Free stuff. You get a house. You get a house. You get a car. You get money. You get whatever. That seems to be his game plan. He unveils this new proposal to create an $80 million anti-gentrification and reparations fund as part of his upcoming 2026 budget. Bruce, I know where you live. I know what your house looks like. You want to anti-gentrify your area? Really? You have a giant wall around your house, dude. You have one of the most massive properties in my neighborhood. How about we put a few ADUs, accessory dwelling units, right on that property? I got a better idea. How about we build a giant low-income housing project right there in your front yard, which is massive, by the way. That driveway is longer than my entire street. Why don't we put that right there? You don't need all that space, right? Why don't we tax the rich? Why don't we do that? Ugh, crazy stuff. This is part of his new budget, a move he claims is aimed at countering decades of discriminatory housing practices, such as redlining and racial covenants. Oh, wait a second. Jews were redlined. Am I getting free money? Are we getting money? Are we going to see money? Oh, no, not for you. Nope, not for you. It's actually going to be modeled after that thing the legislature passed, which, okay, let's see who was redlined around here. Let's see, Jews, Asians, blacks. Okay, all right, we're going to start there. All right, good. So who are we going to give reparations to? Jews? Nope, not you guys. Asians? Nope, not you guys. All right, where's the black people? We'll give it to you. And where's the Hispanics? We'll give it to you. And who's LGBTQIA plus minus divided sign? We'll give it to you. It's racist. It's flat out racist. I don't think anybody should be getting reparations. But this is what they're going to do, guaranteed. The initiative, which still requires city council approval, which they're going to do because they all want to get reelected too, would provide down payment assistance and housing support for families impacted by historic housing discrimination. He pitched the plan as essential to confronting Seattle's affordability crisis. So, hang on. How are you going to pay for this? Oh, right, raising taxes. So you're going to make the city less affordable to make it affordable for other people. Makes perfect sense. Quote, we have to recognize some realities in the city. We have to acknowledge how unaffordable Seattle has become. Whose fault is that? You literally just proposed multiple taxes to the voters. This is your fault. The zoning regulations, you haven't done anything about that at all. Because you haven't done anything about that, it's harder and harder to build, so there's less and less housing. I know you are an ambulance-chasing attorney, but do I need to explain basic economics to you? Harrell's proposal builds on Washington's Covenant homeownership program. Oh, the exact same thing. Yes. The one which is now giving free down payments to anybody who's got the right pigmentation in their skin. That program provides zero-interest loans for first-time homebuyers from certain minority groups that historically faced redlining in Washington. Under the revised law, loans can be forgiven after 5 years if recipients earn 80% or less of the area median income. Supporters have described the program as a form of reparations, but critics say it is fiscally irresponsible, legally questionable, and excludes other groups who are also historically discriminated against. Funding comes from fees added to real estate recording transactions, shifting the model away from self-sustaining loan fund toward what critics argue is effectively a grant system. The exclusivity of the program has raised equity and legal concerns. We had this discussion many, many times during the legislative session. We discussed how this thing is racist, how it discriminates. We had on Andrew Quino, who's an attorney with the Pacific Legal Foundation, which is representing the foundation against intolerance and racism in a lawsuit against the state program. He said, quote, our clients at FAIR meet all the income and residency standards, but they're excluded simply because of their race. That is wrong and unconstitutional. Alongside the reparations fund, Harrell also promised a record $350 million investment in the city's Office of Housing. While the mayor billed it as the largest single allocation of affordable housing in Seattle history, inflation-adjusted figures showed as roughly equal to the 2024 levels. The money would come from a 2023 housing levy, a.k.a. tax, developer fees, a.k.a. making building more expensive, and a payroll tax on large corporations. How are you going to make Seattle affordable again? Would you mind explaining that to me? The funds are intended to stabilize struggling affordable housing projects and spur construction of new units, but questions remain about how the city will afford such a plan, given that Seattle is already facing a budget deficit of several $100 million. Also, here's something else. Developers don't want to take the risk in Washington anymore. Now that you guys did rent control, why do you think this is going to work? People aren't going to invest in building anymore. Harrell also unveiled $11.5 million in rental assistance programs, including $4 million in new ongoing funding. He issued an executive order aimed at streamlining the distribution of funds to prevent evictions and keep families from falling into homelessness. The mayor's announcement comes as Seattle heads into a politically charged election season. Now, these proposals, I guarantee you, are designed to firm up his progressive credentials so that he can run against Katie Wilson. Guaranteed, that is what he is doing. That is what he is doing, and it's bonkers crazy. Is this something that's actually going to work? Well, some people might fall for it. The mayor's promising me free money. I got to vote for him, but it shows something else. He still hasn't learned his lesson. He lost people on my side of the aisle. He's not doing anything to get them back. He's doubling down on the Katie Wilson insanity. If he keeps doing this, people are going to say, do we want the real progressive or the wannabe progressive? And they're going to choose the real progressive. They're not going to vote for him, and he's going to lose. And she's going to do all this nonsense anyway. Last one leaving Seattle. Make sure you turn off the lights. It was a nice run while we had it. When we come back, my friends, Mom Donnie betrays Kathy Hochul. Oh, and a name you know is finally getting deported. Give you all details on what's happening in the Big Apple when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder that coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card, plus so much more. Yet another reason to always keep your radio tuned to 570 KVI, left on your dial, always right on the issues. Why are we playing that music? Because a lot's happening in the Big Apple right now, and I want to celebrate. A federal judge has ruled that Mahmoud Khalil, the terrorist-supporting terrorist out of Columbia University, must be deported back to Syria or Algeria. Oh, isn't that great? I guess they're literally sending him home. What, you too good for your home? Go back to your home. By the way, if this guy hates America so much, he'd be thrilled about this. He's getting a free flight back to Syria. I'm sure Syria is wonderful, or Algeria, the garden spots where I know tons of people want to travel to. Sure, Syria or Algeria. According to the Times of Israel, a U.S. immigration judge orders the deportation of Mahmoud Khalil, an anti-Israel protest leader at Columbia University in New York City. Khalil became a high-profile figure after his arrest by the Trump administration in March. He has waged a legal battle against deportation since then. The immigration judge, in one of his cases, Jamie Comans, ordered Khalil be deported to Algeria or Syria. Comans said the grounds for the deportation include that Khalil committed fraud during the immigration process by deliberately concealing his ties to the UN Agency for the Palestinians, UNRWA. Oh, you mean the one that took part in October 7th? Yeah, them. And Columbia University Apartheid Divest, a coalition of anti-Israel campus activists. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has also said Khalil's presence in the U.S. could hurt foreign policy. It's a little bit more than that, guys. I think you're kind of burying the lead a little bit here. This guy literally led the occupation of Hamilton Hall, trapped the workers, the janitors, the custodians in the building. They had to fight their way out of the building. This guy led of the harassment of students on campus. How about we go with all that? This guy distributed Hamas material on campus on behalf of Hamas. If he's not a terrorist, he's a terrorist supporter. Why do we even want him in this country? And by the way, the lefties who say they want him here, if you guys think this country is so terrible, why would you want him to be part of it? What, you want to reshape it in the order of Palestine? You want to take down all our tall buildings? We can do that. That's something we can do. I don't think you'll like it very much, but that's something we can do. This is a guy who rails on America all the time and keeps saying how terrible America is. Well, we're just sending you home. In fact, we're the ones paying for it. So, big scandal earlier this week because Kathy Hochul, governor of New York, who is holding on to her reelect campaign by her fingernails against Elise Stefanik, endorsed Zoran Mamdani. Now, she did this because she's worried she's not so popular. She thinks he's very popular, and if she endorses him, it might help her in her reelect. One little, teensy, tiny problem. Zoran Mamdani said he's not endorsing her. So, you sold your soul to the guy who supports Hamas, who calls to globalize the Intifada. You sold your soul to that guy. You went against the largest Jewish community in the country. You supported a socialist who wants to bring down capitalism. You supported a guy who rapped about how much he loved the people involved in the largest terror trial in U.S. history, and now he's not endorsing you? Oh, this is just great. Elise Stefanik said in a statement, Kathy Hochul is clearly too scared of her own abysmal polling among Democrat voters that she is desperately shoring up the far-left Democrat flank and choosing to destroy New York for hardworking families across our state. Elise Stefanik slammed the governor in a statement following the endorsement, saying at the exact moment when New Yorkers are looking for strong leadership from their governor. With the majority opposing Zoran Mamdani, Kathy Hochul embraces this raging communist who will destroy New York, making it less affordable and more dangerous, once again putting criminals and communists first, New Yorkers last. Hochul shared platitudes as to how she came to this decision. One, Stefanik said, is an entirely political move. Hochul said that in conversations she's had with Mamdani, she heard a leader who shares her commitment to New York, where children can grow up safe in their neighborhoods and where opportunity is within reach for every family. Tell me, how are they going to grow up safe when the guy follows through with defunding the police, globalizing the Intifada? How do you square that circle? According to the Post-Millennial, while Hochul and Mamdani may share those goals, the way they believe those goals should be achieved may be radically different, but one key thing that they both share is a hatred of Trump that skews their other perspectives. Hochul wrote in the Times, and in light of the abhorrent and destructive policies coming out of Washington every day, I need to know the next mayor will not be someone who would surrender 1 inch to President Trump. Yeah, because Cuomo and Trump are good buddies, right? She couched her endorsement in her own hard luck story. Growing up in poor Buffalo, New York, Mamdani grew up the son of a filmmaker and a Columbia professor. He was worth millions of dollars, born with a silver spoon in his mouth. He was born in Uganda, went to top city schools, only became an American citizen when he was an adult about 7 years ago. So, this is her route. Congratulations, you sold your soul to a guy who wants to sell out the country. Mr. Mamdani and I will both be fearless in confronting the president's extreme agenda. So I just want to make sure I got this right. Enforcing border laws, lowering taxes, all that is extreme. But globalizing the intifada isn't? Oh, give me a break. I'm so tired of these people. They could not be more transparent. They could not be more desperate. But this is the direction the Democratic Party is going in. When we come back, my friends, speaking of the Democrat Party, us on the Republican side got our own problems. It's really time to figure out who here wants the clicks and who here wants to save our country. The division is very, very clear right now. We'll tell you what's going on when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card and tickets to see The Who at Climate Pledge Arena. But before we get to any of that, I'm seriously beginning to wonder who wants to make America great again and who just wants the clicks. Who wants to put our country back on the right track? Who wants to save our country? And who just wants the clicks? Following President Donald Trump's election, we had a ground swell of support for normal stuff. Men can't be women. Get the hypersexualized junk out of the schools. Maybe make the schools better. If you spend and you spend and you spend, somebody eventually has to pay the bill, and we're going to bankrupt our country. Don't leave borders wide open, allowing crazy murderers, rapists, gang members, drug traffickers in. Common sense. 80-20 issues. And the Trump administration overall has been delivering on those promises. They have been delivering on those promises. But then there's some people out there who all call Trump adjacent, and in some cases, literally hanging out with him, who seem more interested in the clicks they can get on social media than actually fixing the country. Let's take me for a minute. Am I the biggest radio host in the country? I wish. I'm not, but it'd be great if I was. There are plenty of things I could be saying for the clicks. There are plenty of clips I could be sharing for the clicks. There are plenty of things I could be doing for the clicks. I don't. For me, it's, does it help my mission? Does it help my mission of fixing Seattle? Does it help my mission of fixing Washington, of making America red again? Does it help with any of that? If not, we're not going to do that. Does it help with defending my religion? Does it help with defending my people? Does it help with defending America? Does it do that or not? If not, we're not going to do it. But it seems like a lot of people in our space have decided instead, we're going to do what gets the clicks. We're going to do what gets the clicks, and they're going to do it using Charlie Kirk's assassination. If you've seen anything on social media over the last week, you have seen, I can't believe it's been a week. Over the last week, you have seen people who, not even before the body was cold, were trying to blame others for who they think killed Charlie Kirk. We know who killed Charlie Kirk. The suspect was dating, living with a roommate/boyfriend who is a trans furry. This guy wrote Antifa and trans slogans on the bullets. His own mother said he was moving more towards the left ideologically. And yet the left keeps saying, oh, no, he was right. He was conservative because he went off the path from his parents who were Republicans. His parents turned him in. His furry trans boyfriend didn't. His Republican parents did the right thing. They're probably mortified. God forbid anybody should ever know what those people are going through right now. They lost their kid to online gaming. They lost their kid to hyper-radicalized education in college. That's how they lost their kid. Apparently, the kid was thinking of blowing his own brains out, and the parents said, no, better to turn him in than have him kill himself. And that's how they came to this. But the left keeps going, he was MAGA, he was the right. We've got one lunatic caller who sends me emails. Oh, see, he was MAGA, he was MAGA. Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel said the same stupidity. Now he doesn't have a show anymore. But there's people on the right who would rather demonize Jews and say Jews had something to do with killing Charlie Kirk. But notice how they do this. They always say, oh, in private conversations and in private texts, I have the goods, I'm not going to show you the goods. Charlie Kirk was one of the most public people in history. A camera was on him all the time. He was on the radio. He was on TV. He was on socials. Even when he's just hanging out with his wife, it's like, hey, let's make a video. Why is it only after his death we hear these conspiracies about what he allegedly said to people in private that contradict everything he said in public for years? And then When people who are in the room during these conversations say, no, Candace Owens is lying. That never happened. Candace Owens doubles down, and she's not the only one, by the way. He isn't here to defend himself. And people are standing on his grave for clicks. First of all, stop engaging with these clickbaiters because that's what they want. That's what Candace Owens wants. I learned this after October 7th. These people want the engagement. They want the interaction. If you really feel like you have to interact, screen grab it, use it as your own image, post it that way so you're not giving them the clicks. My entire feed is rotten with this anti-Semitism. In fact, I heard there's a brand new app for what to do when there's a world crisis.
A lot of terrible things happen in the world, but sometimes you forget to blame Israel. That's why I've launched the Blame Israel Reminder app. It scans news 24/7, and whenever tragedy strikes, you instantly get alerted on your phone reminding you to blame Israel. A celebrity murdered? Obviously Mossad. A horrific pandemic? Gotta be the Jews. Market crashes? Come on, that one's too obvious. Don't ever find yourself in that uncomfortable position where someone else is blamed for a tragedy when you could have easily pinned it on Israel. Thank goodness no one checks facts anymore before sharing idiotic hot takes on social. So download the Blame Israel Reminder app today. And if for some reason it doesn't load, at least you know who's at fault.
That was brilliant today. That was absolutely brilliant when I saw that comedy thing put out because it's so true. That's exactly what's happening. Marjorie Taylor Greene, for example, joined the chorus, according to Mediaite, of influencers posting their past text messages from Charlie Kirk as the MAGA world debates Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson's claim that Kirk had turned against Israel. Owens has claimed Kirk was feeling blackmailed by Israel ahead of his death, despite Kirk being one of the most pro-Israel voices on the right. Greene says Charlie Kirk invited me to speak at AmFest a few weeks ago before he was murdered. She said, believe Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson. She said that it was after she was criticized by AIPAC. Oh, this is what it is. We're just going to blame the Jews. He asked if I wanted to debate about AIPAC. He said, we, not him, TPUSA would do whatever I wanted on the issue. Yeah, okay. Guys, to believe Charlie Kirk turned against Israel, how about we just go hear what Charlie Kirk said about Israel in the past?
So, it's funny. I used to say that, hey, if you as a gay person would go to Gaza, they'd throw you off of tall buildings, right? Now they don't have any tall buildings left, so I don't...
I've said that myself many times.
With the bull, you get the horns. Is that too soon? I'm sorry. Maybe you shouldn't kill Jews, stupid Muslim.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Here's what he said at Oxford when he had one of those debates where the students were challenging him with questions.
Let me ask you, in the conflict of Israel versus Hamas, who's the good guy?
I believe both Hamas and the Israeli government are evil, but I think also that there is no justification.
Are they equally?
There is no justification for the murder and mutilation of thousands of innocent people and children.
Well, let's
futile.
Let's zero in on it.
There is no justification, Mr. Kirk, for invading hospitals, for bombing innocent populations and dragging out a war which is damaging Israel and the West's security.
You've made that point, but
it's not a point; it's a moral truth, isn't it?
Okay, yeah. It was also a moral truth that the war started because 1,300 Jews were killed and 200 were taken hostage. And when you declare war on Israel, expect a firestorm in reaction. Let me finish. I let you talk. Israel, at its holiest day of the calendar year besides Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah, Samat Torah, the 50-year anniversary of the Six-Day War. On Shabbat, Hamas invaded Israel, deciding to go recklessly to music concerts, to homes, to kibbutzes, and taking 200-plus hostages. They knew what they were doing. In one of the most cloistered urban environments on the planet, 2 million people live in a place where it's impossible to wage war. Impossible. Where they wear civilian clothing, they violate every tenet of the Geneva Convention, and the IDF, when they do something right, they get no credit. When they do life-saving surgeries of a Gazan child, they get no credit. When they drop leaflets, they get no credit. But when they happen to bomb a place where they are operating their military from, which we now know from third-party verified sources, hundreds of Hamas military operations are in mosques, schools, and hospitals. I'm sorry, the country where they were living in relative peace on October 6th that all of a sudden we had a war and Hamas started the war. And I don't see people that were really upset about the 2 million Germans that were killed in World War II, civilians. A tragic truth of war is that civilians die. I don't like it and you don't like it. And they brought it upon themselves. The only operation and entity to blame is the leadership of Hamas, not the Israeli government, for fighting this defensive war after they were invaded.
That's it, guys. I've said the exact same thing myself. Why is it all these people like Tucker Carlson, like Candace Owens, all say these conversations happened in secret? I know things nobody else knows. Candace Owens hasn't been part of Turning Point USA for at least a year now. At least a year now. Charlie Kirk stopped interacting with her on social media. You want to tell me what she knows that we don't know? I love how they say, oh, Netanyahu turned against him. Netanyahu had literally just invited him to go to Israel, and he was probably going to be planning another Israel trip. In this clip, this is him sitting in a room. Candace Owens is the one sitting behind him where you're going to hear the tap, 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 tap on the phone. If she really disagreed with him, wouldn't she disagree with him? She went to the embassy opening before she went full crazy. Here's what he said about Bibi Netanyahu.
We've been on the move. We were in Israel a couple weeks ago for the embassy opening.
We went out with Huckabee about 4 or 5 years ago.
Is it not the most amazing place?
I never been. And we had like an hour with Netanyahu.
He's special.
Yes.
He's a special leader.
No, I says.
Oh, and he's everything a leader should be, right? I mean, just confident and direct.
Oh, he hated him. Oh, absolutely hated him. This was 2 weeks ago. Somebody asked him about Candace Owens.
Thank you for coming, Charlie. And I had a quick question about anti-Semitism online. Another question here they asked about Candace Owens. And, I'm a big fan of you. I was a big fan of her. But she's obviously been going down this anti-Semitic bent. And through her, I'm kind of finding out about these other characters online, like Nick, for instance. I'm sure you've heard of him. And these people, they've been active for a long time, and it seems like they've just been ignored, which is working, but now they're kind of surging in popularity. And as someone who I enjoy watching your debates, are they people you'd be willing to engage with and maybe shut them down in a way through a debate or something like that?
Well, I mean, I'm going to debate Candace. But no, look, I'll debate anybody that shows up at our campus events first and foremost. But I do want to take what you say and extrapolate that there is a corner of the internet of people that want to point and blame the Jews for all their problems. Everybody, this is demonic and it's from the pit of hell. And it should not be tolerated. Period.
This is demonic and should not be tolerated. He's not here to defend himself. After Malcolm X died, after Martin Luther King died, after other big public figures died, there became this, well, what did they say? What did they mean? And everybody trying to claim they knew better than anybody else, which is why they should inherit the throne. Everybody who was working for Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA, everybody who was in contact with Charlie Kirk the weeks leading up to his death, has debunked everything Tucker Carlson, especially Candace Owens, are saying. They've debunked all of it, time after time after time. So why are they still pushing it? Because they're trying to get clicks. There was something I posted last week. I saw it. It actually made me tear up a little bit. Charlie Kirk had signed off from his show one day, and somebody sent me the clicks because they knew that I was kind of grappling with all this, and I barely knew Charlie Kirk. I met him one time for 30 minutes, and it was great. I'm not going to try and claim I'm the inheritor to the throne. Somebody sent me a clip. It was him signing off from his show. And it was him saying, everybody have a great weekend. Shabbat shalom, in that funny accent he had with Hebrew words. Good Shabbos. Turn off your phones, and God bless America. And that really hit home for me. Every week on Friday, I share something going into the Sabbath. I share a picture of an Israeli flag or something Jewish or something like that, and it usually doesn't get that many clicks. I shared the video from Charlie because it's the same kind of stuff we say around here. 1.4 million views on my Instagram. That 15-second clip. 1.4 million views. Now imagine somebody who's just doing it for the clicks. They'll share anything if they get the clicks. They'll share anything for the reaction. And people who are entirely online based, like Candace Owens, like Tucker Carlson, they are doing this for the clicks, and it's nauseating. And I'll tell you something else that's dividing MAGA. MAGA has so many different sides. You've got the RFK, health, vaccine, all that kind of stuff. You've got the disaffected Democrats. You've got people further right than me, like the Jack Posobiec types. You've got everybody. You've got people like me who go, is this where I belong? I mean, they all seem like Republicans. I like a lot of this stuff, but you've got everybody there. Why would you try and jeopardize that right now when we're all working in harmony, at least for these 4 years together? Why would you say we want to exclude anybody who wants to be part of this party in good faith? Why would you do that? Is it for anti-Semitism? Is it for the clicks? They are literally trying to use Charlie Kirk to get the clicks, because anytime you hashtag his name in a post, you will get more clicks. It's a sad state of the internet right now, but that's what people are capitalizing on, and it's sickening. I met him one time, and I'm disgusted by what people are doing. But I'm not going to go out there and claim, I had a secret conversation with Charlie Kirk, and he told me this about Jews, this about Israel. You know how many clicks I could get for saying that, Mike? Because even the bad clicks get you attention. Even if people call you a liar, well, then you go viral for being a liar, and then you could double down, and then you could do this. It's sick. It's truly, truly sick what's happening. We don't have enough people against MAGA. We got to turn on ourselves, but this is really separating the who wants the clicks and who wants to save our country. That's what we're seeing. Charlie Kirk, as I said before, was one of the most public people in history. We know very clearly where he stood on every single issue. And did I agree with everything he said about Israel? No. But we agreed with 80, 90% of it. And the questions he was asking were legitimate questions. So, the people trying to do this, something is really wrong with them. Something is really, really wrong with him. You claim this guy was your friend, and you're besmirching his memory? You're making his team that is still in mourning, that can barely stop from crying, have to answer these ridiculous allegations when his body's not even in the ground? What the hell is wrong with all of you? I'll say this again. I barely knew the guy. Barely knew him. And I'm offended every time I see one of these things. On behalf of all his friends who are grieving right now. You think they want to be dealing with this? They want to be talking about how wonderful he was. I don't know if you've watched the Charlie Kirk show the past couple days. The first day, they had on the guys from the Daily Wire, and the whole thing was talking about Charlie's legacy and talking about how great Charlie was. And then today they had Glenn Beck, and the first day they had J.D. Vance, and it was all Charlie, 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 Charlie. All of them are class acts enough not to be addressing these insane conspiracy theories while sitting next to the chair he'll never occupy again. I don't know if you saw what happened with Glenn Beck today. I knew Glenn Beck and Charlie had some kind of relationship where they were close. Glenn Beck today pulled out Rush Limbaugh's microphone and parked it right there in front of Charlie's chair, and he was holding back tears the entire time. Everybody's holding back tears the entire time. You think the people who are close to Charlie, you think anybody at Turning Point USA wants to be dealing with Candace Owens' nonsense right now, or Tucker Carlson's nonsense right now, or any of that? The funeral hasn't even happened yet. It's happening on Sunday. The people who are doing this should be ashamed of themselves. The people who are doing this are monsters. The people who are doing this are vile creatures. Because even if you disagree with somebody on a political issue, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, people like you are no better than the people on the left who are trying to say it was the right that killed Charlie Kirk. You're making up lies just like they are. And it is disgusting. It's just disgusting. He's not even in the ground yet. You guys couldn't even wait for the body to cool before you went chasing off the clicks. And it reveals that you don't care about the country. You don't care about the mission. You don't care about Charlie. It reveals you only care about yourselves. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from our friend Carrie in Kent. Carrie, it was great to see you at the fair the other day.
Yeah, awesome to see you too. I am just really appalled at this trend of anti-Semitism and crazy claims from people that I know and have respected in the past. I just don't understand it, Ari. I really don't. I mean, I was raised as an evangelical Christian, and I fail a lot, just putting that out there. But I I was raised to respect the Jewish people, that the Jewish people were the apple of God's eye, that we were lucky to be grafted in, that, that the Jewish people were the chosen people, and, I just don't understand it. So I take very seriously the verses in Genesis and Isaiah that say, I will bless those who bless Israel and curse those who curse Israel. And you know what? If you don't believe in the Bible or the Torah, whatever, that's fine. But I'm not taking a chance. So I will always stand with the Jewish people.
That's very good. That's very sweet. I'll tell you something else, Carrie, is for me. So in my life, I was pretty sheltered growing up. Jewish school, Jewish synagogues, Jewish university, spent a year in Israel. I didn't have a lot of non-Jewish friends except for places I would work during the summer. And I got to say, something I value so much are all the friends I have made from other faiths, especially my Christian friends, because there's so much we have in common. And there have been times in history where the Jewish and Christian relationships, the Jewish and Catholic relationships, were not like this at all. And the fact that we have this now, where I can walk into an event, and it was a few days after October 7th, and you sang Hatikva because you knew I was going to be at this thing, but also because of the tragedy that happened in Israel.
Yeah.
Talk about some symbiotic relationship where now look at these races, these religions that didn't always get along so well, and look how they're getting along well. But also from a political perspective, right, Carrie?
Right.
We are finally on the track to victory, and it looks like these people are doing everything they can to stop it.
Well, the Democrats have turned just crazy and really, really anti-Israel and anti-Jewish. And there's a home for them in the Republican Party. And we're just going to, entertain this nonsense and turn them away. That's, from a political point and practical point, that's just stupid. But I got to tell you this, Ari. My very favorite Jew is my savior.
Yeah.
He was a Jewish carpenter. So we've got that.
We should make T-shirts. We should make T-shirts for the Ari Hoffman Show. And then my second favorite Jew is Ari Hoffman. We should put that right on there. Carrie.
One of my best friends was Jewish, too, so he taught me a lot of things. He told me I'm a shiksa, so I'm like, okay,
don't
whatever.
use that word, Carrie. I always tell you that. That's a bad word. I'll leave you to this before we go. And I use this example all the time, and before I run out of time here. In the Superman movie, and I talk about this all the time for people who haven't seen it, Lex Luthor has a room full of monkey bots that are saying bad things about Superman on the internet. But everywhere he goes in the street, everybody loves him, everybody likes him, and he can't figure out why people are saying bad things about him online. If you want to know why your timeline is rotten with this stuff, it's because the bots are feeding off this and the hosts are feeding off the bots. Carrie, appreciate the love. Yep, appreciate the love.
Right.
Appreciate the call. You have a good one. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, Ben and Jerry's owners are having a complete meltdown. See what I did there? We'll tell you all about what's happening when we come back. But first, Todd Herman's Daily Thoughtcast right now on the Ari Hoffman Show. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including tickets to the Who out of Climate Pledge Arena, plus a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card. Yet another reason for you to always keep your radio tuned to 570 KVI. Left on your dial, always right on the issues. You can also stream us at KVI.com, download the KVI app, and, of course, subscribe on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. I love that song. That's one of my favorite Who songs, by the way. Teenage Wasteland. Used to use that one. Oh, sorry, Baba O'Reilly. That's what it's technically called. Yes. Anywho, switching gears over to a story we were covering earlier. So, remember we told you the story about the car that jumped the University Bridge while it was open near University of Washington earlier today? At around 12:55, Cairo 7 reported that a car jumped the open University Bridge. Now, Sean Garrett from Cairo 7 has an update for us. But before I tell you the update, somebody in the newsroom said, I bet Ari was excited because he probably assumed it was an illegal alien. And I said, that was not what I assumed. Do you know me at all? I assumed it was a stolen vehicle because we're in Seattle right now. And I assumed this was somebody running from the cops. Here's what you see in the video. You see the car stopped at the University Bridge with the arms down, blocking the way. And then some guy comes up the opposite lane of traffic, and he's got 3 cars chasing him. And what didn't make sense to me, this is clearly a mom mobile. I don't know if it was a Subaru or whatnot, but it's got one of the ski/cargo containers on the roof, right on the roof. And I said, this is not, some speedster out for kicks. It doesn't look like my car. It doesn't look like something else out of Fast and Furious. I said, this is a stolen car. Odds are this is a stolen car. So what happens? The guy jumps the bridge while it's open. Here's what the police scanner was doing at the time.
He actually made the jump over the bridge and plowed through the sign on the other side. Can you let North know? Or is he supposed to make maybe jump over the bridge and plow through the sign? Get open there. He's going to be eastbound straight towards UW.
Okay, so that's what I would expect, a little bit more enthusiasm. Holy blank! I would expect something like that. Very, very methodical there on the Seattle police scanner. Sean Garrett from Cairo 7 says this was a stolen car that was spotted by Seattle police. Hoffman's right again. They were following the car before it stopped at the base of the bridge. Then they turned their lights on and the driver took off. The car was found later with a busted windshield and destroyed undercarriage. The driver ran off and hasn't been found. See, this is the problem with the Dukes of Hazzard or Knight Rider or any of those TV shows, Mike. Mike, you watch as much behind-the-scenes stuff as I do. Very few of those cars survived because anytime they did one of those jumps, they destroyed the thing. In fact, in the Dukes of Hazzard movie, I know it's sacrilegious to say I like the Dukes of Hazzard movie, but you know what? I didn't really grow up with the show that much. Dukes of Hazzard movie, when the credits are rolling, you see all the awful things they did to all those cars. In fact, Dodge Chargers, thanks to the Dukes of Hazzard and thanks to Fast and Furious, there's not that many of them left because so many were destroyed. They have to start using replicas that they can destroy in these movies that look like Dodge Chargers. You know how rare it is to find a screen-used version of one of these cars? Because they're all destroyed. The behind-the-scenes footage, which you see pictures of where they kept all the General Lees or all the kits or anything else from any of these shows, they're just, what parts can we take off this one to make the show work this week because they're doing a weekly television show? The thing I really like when you watch old episodes of Knight Rider or you watch old episodes of the Dukes of Hazzard, you see the skid marks on the ground of how many takes it took to do that jump, to do that stunt, because they didn't have CGI back then and they couldn't remove that kind of stuff. Yep, once again, I was right. Stolen car. When we come back, I will do that Ben and Jerry story I told you about. We'll tell you what they're melting down over when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, if you want to see this beautiful face but receding hairline, check out our live stream of the video over on Facebook, YouTube, X, and of course over on Rumble. You can see the inside of the studio, and you can check out, we have found our old studio chairs thanks to our friend Jeremy Harris over at Como News, where we left them behind at Como Plaza. So I am comfy once again, I should say, in our studio. You know who's not comfortable? Jerry Greenfield, the co-founder of Ben & Jerry's Ice Cream. He's resigning from the company. He says that the Vermont-based ice cream brand, known for its progressive politics, is being silenced by its parent company. Now, before we get into this, I have a little theory about what's going on. He's mad that they're not listening to his political activism anymore. Their political shenanigans have cost their new parent company, Unilever, a lot of money. Forget about just the Israel stuff. You name it. A lot of people have said, we just want ice cream. Can we not deal with the politics? But I have a different theory about what's going on. Do you think this is really over the politics or over something else? Let's go through some key facts here. Ready? Jerry Greenfield was born in 1951. That means he is 74 years old. Do you think they were saying, we're tired of this crazy old communist? We just want to make ice cream. Maybe we've had enough of you. Bye-bye, Jerry. And he's trying to save face? Or do you think he just wants to retire anyway and he says, let me be relevant one more time on my way out the door? Ben & Jerry's was founded in 1978. Company's been around a long, long time. Unilever bought Ben & Jerry's in 2000. As long as I've been paying attention to politics, Ben & Jerry's has been in the politics. Nobody should be surprised by any of this. Do you think he's just trying to be relevant again? Because that's what it seems like to me. Oh, he's all mad about this kind of stuff. I remember these founders, they can't even justify what they're mad about. They can't even justify the politics they're rambling about. Remember when they did that interview with Vox?
Disagree with the Israeli government policy, why not just stop sales completely?
Well, I disagree with the U.S. policy. We couldn't stop selling in the U.S. I think it's fine to be involved with a country, to be a citizen of a country, and to protest some of the country's actions. And that's essentially what we're doing in terms of Israel. We hugely support Israel's right to exist, but we are against a particular policy.
You guys are big proponents of voting rights. Why do you still sell ice cream in Georgia? Texas, abortion bans. Why are you still selling there?
I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting question. I don't know what that would accomplish. We're working on those issues of voting rights and I don't know. I think you ask a really good question, and I think I'd have to sit down and think about it for a bit.
Now, to be fair, that's not Jerry. That's Ben who is saying that dumb stuff. But they don't even know what they stand for, what they don't stand for. And by the way, that clip was from what, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, something like that? That was even before the October 7th stuff. Let's not forget, Ben & Jerry's is always in the middle of controversy. Here's their new woke DEI video they put out earlier this year.
Stick to ice cream. Not gonna lie, we get this one a lot.
Yeah, we're in the ice cream business, but we've always been about much more than just ice cream. We use our power, our privilege, our platform, and our relationship with our fans to advocate for progressive social change. So no, we're not just going to stick to ice cream.
And we're never going to stop trying to dismantle white supremacy, end the climate crisis, or fight for our democracy.
And no, we're not going to stop fighting laws that restrict trans rights, ban books, and roll back abortion protections.
Caring about that stuff, doing something about it, and supporting communities who've been directly impacted by it is part of our DNA, and it has been since we opened up our first scoop shop in Burlington, Vermont back in 1978.
Ben & Jerry were two best friends who loved making ice cream. But for them, the only reason to be in business was to do business differently.
Whether we're working with activists in St. Louis to close a racist and inhumane jail, or working to restore the right to vote for people who were formerly incarcerated in Florida, or turning up a delicious new flavor in support of refugee rights in the UK, Being an activist company is who we are.
And we know our fans wouldn't want it any other way. Because while we love making the best possible ice cream in the best possible way, the world needs more than just great ice cream.
We don't pretend to always know the answers, but we partner with and take the lead from activists and allies who do. And we hope you'll join us in taking action to support them. That's just who we are and who we've been for 45 years, and that's why we'll never...
Enough. I just can't. I just can't. You know what? Sabra, hummus company, bought by Pepsi. They own Doritos. They own a whole bunch of other stuff. So when they start doing weird flavors of hummus, I just don't buy the weird flavors. That's it. I say, okay, that's a strange direction to take. When you sell your company to a conglomerate, they may say, we just want to sell ice cream and stop with your Looney Tune politics because you are costing us money. And that seems to be what's going on here. I don't think Jerry is retiring. I think Jerry is being retired. That's my guess, personally. I do like this one here from Rob in Lakewood over on the text line, referencing our earlier story about the car jump, Mike. Ari, where were you when that car jumped the bridge? First of all, that car is not my style. Second of all, I was right here in the studio showing the video to everybody who walked by. Hey, check it out, check it out, check it out, check it out. Yes, that's right. Lots of fun. That's right. I have an alibi. Everybody saw it. This one here from the 206. The Blues Brothers jumped their bridge, too. That's right. Hey, you know who else did? Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock in a bus. They jumped a bridge also. Only good news to wrap up the show. Your good news giveaway, your good news headlines, your chance to win Who tickets and a $50 Daniels Broiler gift card. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. It is time to feel good as we wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And before we get to our good news giveaway, I got a political good news headline for you. In fact, it's breaking news right now. Yeah, you know what? Let's hit that button right there for it.
Talk Radio 570 KVI. Breaking news on the Ari Hoffman Show.
President Donald J. Trump has announced that he is going to designate Antifa a terrorist organization. He posted on Truth Social, "I am pleased to inform our many USA patriots that I am designating Antifa, a sick, dangerous, radical left disaster, as a major terrorist organization. I will also be strongly recommending those funding Antifa be thoroughly investigated in accordance with the highest legal standards and practices. Thank you for your attention to this matter." It's about time, but this is huge news. Unfortunately, now watch for Antifa's reaction. That's probably coming next. But yes, that is huge, huge good news. And I know everybody's still upset about the Charlie Kirk thing and still in mourning, especially because he hasn't had the funeral yet. So I thought we'd do a few good news stories about Charlie Kirk's legacy. There's a video that Jonathan Cho put out through Frontlines through Turning Point USA, which is actually a great montage of all the vigils that have been had, including the Seattle vigil. It's very inspiring. It's really beautiful. It's really inspiring. I recommend you go on over to Jonathan Cho's social media account and check him out. But then Mike found this story from the New York Post. Apparently, a London pub is honoring Charlie Kirk with a permanent debate room after a fatal shooting. The pub, named Biddy Mulligan's Olympia, is located in Brook Green in the London borough of Hammersmith and Fulham. As noted in a press release obtained by Fox News, the bar's entertainment lounge will now be permanently known as the Charlie Kirk Debate Room. The room will offer guests the opportunity to celebrate the life of one of MAGA movement's brightest stars. The pub also plans to host events celebrating free speech and the achievements of Kirk. Damian Smith, the pub's landlord, said he was personally shocked by Kirk's assassination on September 10th. He said millions of people around the world have been left horrified that a decent family man like Charlie could be slaughtered during a peaceful and open public debate. We owe it to his wife and children to send a clear message that we stand against the rise of left-wing extremism and violence. This is really very nice. Also, here's something else from Turning Point USA. Do you know their latest numbers? This is as of yesterday, so they're probably higher today. As of yesterday, in the past 6 days, Turning Point USA has received 54,000 plus requests from high school and college students nationwide to start a chapter or get involved in an existing chapter. It's funny because those of us in our space who have kids, we've all been talking, yeah, our kids all said they want to open up chapters. If that's all happening right here in Seattle, right here in Western Washington, I can only imagine what's happening in the rest of the country. And here's something else also with another local spin. You know our friend Cam Higbee, independent journalist who actually does work for Frontlines for Turning Point USA. So, according to Fox News, Seattle-based journalist and conservative influencer Cam Higbee, who contracts for Turning Point USA's Frontlines, is among those leading efforts to honor Kirk's legacy. He co-launched a grassroots campus tour this week with political commentator David Cate called Fearless. Quote, "It's to show people that conservatives and people in general aren't afraid to go out and talk about their beliefs in the public square. Even though Charlie sat behind a table just like ours and was shot and killed, we want to show we're not scared." Wearing Make America Great Again hats, Higbee and Cate set up a booth Monday at Georgia State University with signs that read, "Nobody should be killed for their opinions, R.I.P. Charlie," and "The left is violent, let's debate." The next day, they kept the Kirk sign up and put up a new sign that read, "Men cannot be women, let's talk." Higbee said the tour will expand to more schools in Georgia and surrounding states with their goal of encouraging open dialogue between both sides. Some people who approached the booth engaged respectfully, Higbee said, while others confronted them aggressively. Yes, it's the right who has the party of violence, right? Absolutely. You see the clips over on social media. I sent Cam a message. I said the next time they're at University of Washington, it'd be really fun to go out with them. Before I forget, your chance to win fantabulous prizes. Today, we're giving away a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card. Daniel's Broiler has been a Seattle favorite since 1980. Features USDA prime steak and other specialties, including chicken and fresh seafood, as well as a selection of high-end spirits, wine, and cocktails. Daniel's Broiler is open now in Bellevue, downtown Seattle, Leschi, and South Lake Union, with dine-in, takeout, and delivery. Check out danielsbroiler.com to reserve a table, place your takeout, delivery order, and more. We're also giving away a copy of 7 Steps to a Successful Retirement by Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs. Learn how to design your retirement to support your quality of life. For 30-plus years, from Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs, a local company working to help you grow deep financial roots so that future financial storms don't blow your life savings away. Visit MadronaFinancial.com for more information and discover how you can create a rooted wealth plan today. Last but certainly not least, we are giving away two tickets to see The Who live at Climate Pledge Arena on Thursday, September 25th. Get your tickets now to see The Who at Climate Pledge Arena at Ticketmaster.com. All you have to do in order to win these fantabulous prizes is be caller number 10 at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Caller number 10. Win a $50 Daniels Broiler gift card, a copy of 7 Steps to a Successful Retirement by Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs, and two tickets to see The Who at Climate Pledge Arena on September 25th. Phone lines are open now. Give Mike a call for your chance to win at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up in tomorrow's episode, I guarantee you we're going to be diving into Trump's order declaring Antifa a terrorist organization. Plus, we're going to have some other fun stories and interviews for you, so make sure you're tuned in tomorrow. And if you missed the show, catch up on the podcast, which you should subscribe to on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. Also be sharing some great articles from KVI tonight. That's going to do it for us today. We'll be back tomorrow with more insane stories, more exciting guests, and, of course, more giveaways. You've been listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.